McLaren has been thrown straight into the eye of a storm nobody in Woking saw coming. What should have been just another late-night legality check after the Las Vegas Grand Prix has exploded into a full-scale FIA investigation, and inside the team, the shock is impossible to ignore. What started as a simple double disqualification for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri has now mutated into something far bigger. The FIA isn't treating Vegas as an isolated technical slip anymore. They're linking the plank wear on both cars to a deeper pattern they first began tracking in Brazil. Overnight, McLaren has gone from championship leaders to the team under the heaviest scrutiny on the grid. The governing body is no longer just checking if the plank is legal, they're asking whether the strange floor behavior seen in Las Vegas connects directly to irregularities they quietly identified a week earlier, when several teams were suspected of using questionable methods to limit skid wear. The result is a brutally simple message. The FIA wants everything: data, simulations, damage logs, temperature readings. And the fact both McLarens failed the same test on the same night is where this storm truly begins. The FIA's investigation didn't begin in Vegas. It began quietly, almost invisibly, in Brazil. And that is what makes the current situation so explosive. In Sao Paulo, the governing body noticed something that didn't add up. Several teams were running extremely low on a notoriously bumpy track, yet their plank wear didn't match the expected punishment. That discrepancy lit the first alarms. After the sprint, Joe Bauer inspected a wide sample of cars and instructed several teams to remove devices he found protecting the plank through a highly questionable method: heating the titanium skid blocks. When heated, the metal expands by fractions of a millimeter, protruding just enough to take the asphalt impact before the wood does. When cooled, it contracts back into legal dimensions. The FIA didn't expose any team in Brazil publicly. But after Vegas, when McLaren suddenly showed dramatic plank wear the week after the loophole was closed, the investigators saw a pattern too suspicious to ignore, and the spotlight swung straight onto Woking. Las Vegas didn't expose McLaren because of one massive failure. It exposed them because of a pattern. When the FIA measured the planks, Norris's came in at 0.07 and 0.12 millimeters under the limit, Piastri's at 0.04 and 0.26 millimeters. Individually small, but in Formula One, the size doesn't matter. The breach does. Two cars, same team, failing in the same sectors, that ends any theory of randomness. So the FIA is breaking down the wear profile millimeter by millimeter. If the grounding lines align with porpoising behavior, McLaren's explanation gains weight. But if wear begins earlier than predicted, or in zones where the team expected no bottoming, it points to a deeper modeling failure, the kind only revealed when a hidden advantage disappears. McLaren insists Vegas was caused by unexpected bouncing and accidental floor damage. Those factors matter. But the sudden spike in wear immediately after the skid block loophole shut is the question investigators refuse to ignore. To understand if Vegas was a freak accident or a symptom of something deeper, the FIA is dissecting McLaren's telemetry, and lap 45 jumps out. That's when Norris suddenly lost pace, lifting early on the straights. Classic fuel-saving behavior. Fuel saving isn't illegal, but running tight margins on fuel usually means running tight margins everywhere else: tires, aero balance, and especially ride height. A car pushed to the absolute limit becomes extremely sensitive to differences between simulation and reality, and Vegas, with its cold asphalt, long straights, and violent braking zones, punished every miscalculation. The FIA isn't suggesting intent, they're suggesting vulnerability. If McLaren's models unconsciously relied on the titanium expansion effect still being present across the grid, the removal of that behavior could expose weaknesses instantly. It's not wrongdoing, it's risk exposure. And risk exposure is exactly what the FIA wants to understand. As the investigation intensifies, Qatar becomes the first true test. The FIA wants assurances, corrected modeling, strengthened predictions, safer ride height strategies. Not excuses, Guarantees. Expect more random checks, more floor inspections, more skid block measurements, and the timing couldn't be worse. Norris leads Verstappen by just 24 points. Piastri sits level with the Dutchman. The team had planned an aggressive final push, but now they must decide between maximum performance and absolute legality. Engineers must debate millimeters. Strategists must consider whether tire wear might change ride height mid-race. One misjudged stiffness setting, one unexpected bump, one flawed simulation, and McLaren's championship campaign could implode. Meanwhile, rival teams have sensed weakness. The paddock was already whispering in Brazil, but after Vegas, those whispers sharpened. Jos Verstappen hinted Max already knew the McLarens would be disqualified. Literal or observational, the message hit the paddock instantly. Heavy sparks, unusual grounding, inconsistent aero behavior, rival teams had noticed something long before the stewards published their findings. These observations often serve as the FIA's unofficial roadmap. And now the most delicate question sits at the core of the inquiry. Did McLaren benefit earlier in the season from the titanium expansion behavior, even unintentionally, and only now feel the consequence of losing it? The FIA has explicitly said there was no intent, but a lack of intent does not erase potential effect, and that distinction fuels the investigation. Now everything funnels into a single objective, ensuring the final two races are fought on equal terms. The FIA wants proof McLaren understands its porpoising. Proof the Vegas floor damage wasn't structural. Proof their ride height strategy is robust under unpredictable conditions. Proof no team is still gaining from the now forbidden skid block behavior. These requirements force McLaren into a mindset of rigid caution. Do they sacrifice performance to guarantee legality? Do they race the car and hand openings to rivals? 1 millimeter miscalculation could destroy their entire season. The pressure is unprecedented, and every decision in Qatar will be judged through the lens of legality first, performance second. Qatar becomes the trial by fire. High-speed corners, relentless lateral load, and a surface that punishes cars flirting with minimum ride height make it the harshest possible environment for a team walking a tightrope over the rulebook. McLaren arrives knowing every simulation must match reality. Every millimeter must be correct. Every legality check must be clean. Norris carries a fragile lead. Piastri stands level with Verstappen, and one more technical slip could send their championship dreams into freefall. What happens under the Lusail floodlights won't just define a race, it will define McLaren's entire 2025 season.